Today, ANC Communications, we're having an interview with the ANC Eastern Cape Provincial Chairperson, Comrade Phumulo Masualle. Comrade Chair, we welcome you in our program today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Welcome as well. Good morning, everyone.
We are closing the year 2014. We believe that this has been a hard year for the ANC in the province. Today, we would want to have some kind of interaction about the leadership, the processes and everything that has happened in the year 2014. Can you brief us? You are leading the collective as elected in the conference. Can you brief us? Can you tell us the quality of the work that is done by the province?
I must say that 2014 has truly been an eventful year. For the ANC, we've been very, very busy throughout. There are quite a lot of lessons we take out of the year. I must say from the onset that the conference elected a very good team, that it's always a pleasure. I'm very much honored to be working with them. And yes, organizationally speaking, there's always room to improve. But certainly the collective we have, what inspires me the most about is firstly preparedness to be on the ground. There is nothing as bad as people who accept being elected and cannot live up to the demands of leadership. Secondly, it is also in the ability to cohere around the perspectives on what needs to be done. You see, on the ground, the messaging is important from leadership. Where you find from within the same elected leadership conflicting messages and conflicting voices, it does not help provide clarity for members on the ground. So the team I work with, there's absolute commitment to realizing the mandate of conference. It is dealt with everyone sparing no effort to get to the success of what is agreed. But as I say, there's always room to improve. It is not just the leadership at the provincial level that matters. It is also the corresponding levels of leadership, because there would be leadership at regional levels as well as sub-regions, including branch leadership, because the entire value chain of leadership is when we look at the entire leadership structures together. But speaking about the PEC, I must say that it is a good and a strong collective. I'm inspired working with it. From the organization of the work to be done, I think our secretariat is very much up to it in terms of the coordination of the work, management of the various linkages in terms of the structures. We remember the ANC oversees not just the provincial government, we also oversee the 45 municipalities in the province. We also look into the workings of the members of parliament, members of the provincial legislature. The center that manages and holds this together is the PSO, and from where we are, I think to a very large extent it is because those are holding things together, we are able to go ahead with the work that is ahead of us. As I was saying, there's always room to improve, and I'm sure coming year is going to test the leadership, is going to test the resilience, particularly because it's a year ahead of an election year once again. But certainly, I am very, very pleased with the collective that we have.
Tell us why you are passionate about unity, why it is important that in our structures we have the unity.
Well, no, thank you very much. I think firstly, there is nothing we can achieve where we are not acting in unison, where the collective is weak, where there is no unity of purpose, not just amongst the leaders, but also amongst the general membership as a whole. But specifically for us as the province, I think even for the previous term of leadership and this one, we had an obligation. We have a particular history as the province. And that history has been, along the way, marked by divisions. And those divisions, the impact of the divisions, truly have been to the detriment of the province. If you're looking at the ability of the province to impact in the national body politic, the ability of the province to use its muscle to benefit the province, we have suffered as a consequence of disunity amongst the leadership as well as the membership of the organization. So we had a duty as this leadership to champion the strategic nature of unity. Not just unity in the broader sense, active unity, practical unity on the ground to help our comrades comprehend the task of transforming the province. We can't do so when people are pulling in different directions. Disunity doesn't serve progress. It's for that reason that we've almost made it our battle song, our battle cry. The unity of the province is paramount, and we have things we can actually attest, things that are demonstrating what has been achieved by unity. I think for the better part, where in national gatherings of the ANC, we will get there, the province either has got 2 delegations. We have worked to eliminate that. We've got 1 single provincial delegation. So was the case when we were in the policy conference. It was the case in the National General Council, whilst there were still in 2010 indications of the rigidities, the groupings that continued to seek to express themselves. But with time, we've managed to overcome that. If you're looking at the conference we had in Mangaung, we had a very solid, and if there was anyone who was trying to work against that, it was clearly a minority voice which had no significance. I think if you look at it in terms of the stature of the province amongst other provinces, it certainly has been enhanced. But also if you're looking at the ability to strike agreements that have the potential to improve the province, we can talk to a number of things, decisions that have been made by central government, in which as the province, those who are within and external to the province who come from here, the message is one, because we are all concerned about the development of the province. The political collective and unity of the political echelon is critical for the development of the province. That's the bottom line. It's not a question in which we have a choice on it. And if truly we are inspired by the desire to see the province improve, unity is an unavoidable necessity. It's like water in the desert. We need it. As they say, unity is the bedrock upon which the ANC is founded. I think it was former President, the late O.R. Tambo, who made that point repeatedly.
Without mentioning names, what characters that are there that always drive the element of disunity? And how do you identify some of these elements? What is it that people are doing to make sure that there is disunity?
Look, sometimes I tend to be a little philosophical about this. But just to illustrate the point, there is no one who sets out to want to divide people, except if one has a higher personal objective to meet. Nobody wakes up without having had any idea come to mind and say, today I'm going to work to have my group in a branch. What for? We used to have differences before, but those differences, you could trace them ideologically. Difference over how we interpret the best way to make a movement forward with respect to how we analyze the balance of forces. That's what kept the movement alive, the choosing between various tactics and options. But what you find these days, the differences are not so much ideological, but the differences, in fact, you cannot even lay your hand on them, except that Tina Samba Noban, Tina Samba Noban, and that's it. And in fact, some of our conferences, the recent conferences we've had, exactly demonstrate that. You find branch delegates that come to a conference. First, they must be kept somewhere, not to conference where they have come to. They must be kept there, and they must come only to come and do one thing in conference: vote, and vote for a particular person, such that you have got a conference from the onset that demonstrates groups without there having been a discussion, an engagement, a proliferation of ideas, views, perspectives. We no longer have that. It's only that we come to put an X on a ballot in favor of this name and not that other name. And you ask, what's the difference? Why this name and not that one? You'll not find that. I think this is where we need to really stem that and negate it, because it will lead to the ANC, as I was saying, getting away from its historical mission. And the ANC is a liberation movement. It's a mass formation. It is there for everyone. It leads society. And once we try and change that by making it a political party, because I think these are tendencies of a narrow political party. A political party belongs to that segment of people who have identified themselves to belong to that particular political formation. The ANC is a mass formation, a liberation movement, an organization for all the people, a parliament of the people. And I think we need not change that. It's a character that's essential to the ANC.
These are the elements that are taking place at a branch level. In the near future, we are going for regional conferences. How do you expect that branches can deal with such elements as they are going to elect leaders in these regional conferences? And what is it that you are doing as the PEC to assist lower structures to make sure that they deal head on with these issues?
Well, we have launched under the leadership, I think from the last conference, the conference in Mangaung, one of the things that was critical resolutions was on organizational renewal and declaration of 2012 to 2022 as the year of the cadre, which would include a combination of imvuselelo, political education, as well as transforming the organization into a campaigning organization than just an organization of passive members. We've launched the imvuselelo campaign in the province, and it's looking at a variety of things: membership renewal, recruitment of new members, political education, and helping our activists, members of the branch of the ANC, to comprehend with the tasks of the ANC branch. That is, being a leader in that ward, in all the manifestations, the needs of the people on the ground. We've got school governing bodies, we've got clinic committees, we have, just now, we're coming out of this 16 days campaign on no violence against women and children. Branches of the ANC must be there in creating environments where people live that are conducive, environments where people can live where there is safety, looking after one another. It's the task of the ANC branch to do that. And in order to fulfill that, we need all the people to be members of the ANC, to identify with the objectives of the ANC. So imvuselelo is actually aiming to help us deal with that. Yes, we are going to regional conferences, and as part of the program to regional conferences, it is going to be this extensive interaction with structures of the ANC to help move them back to where we should be, back to basics, so to speak. Of course, we've also launched our political education campaign, starting with leadership, but also at regional levels. Some of the regions are already ahead in terms of bringing in sub-regional leaderships into a constant political education program, which is meant to empower our membership with what are the basic values of the ANC? Why is the ANC in existence? How has it traversed all this time to still be such an organization that inspires people, but also how the current generation of members of the ANC should be conducting themselves to advance the objectives of the ANC. That is what we will be doing, and that is what we are doing. And I did say that we have ample room to improve. And I'm one of those who are very optimistic that the many we are in spreading this message, so will we in the end become even more victorious for the ANC to restore, we take it, restore it to its past glory. There was a time where throughout the country, people would look unto the Eastern Cape for leadership. That golden age, your Omkov, Walter Sisulu's, even the young Nelson Mandela's, they came from the Eastern Cape, and the Eastern Cape would inspire the movement as a whole. We have that ability. We have many young and coming activists. They must though find the ANC with that conducive environment to make them flourish and to emerge with the leadership potential that they have. That's the function of the PEC, and we are working on that.
It's over a year now in office. It's just a few months after general elections. Just give us a brief. What is the actual mandate that was given to the ANC by the people of Eastern Cape? Do you think the collective that you have understand it very well? What is it that they're expected to do?
Well, I think we are very fortunate to have the African National Congress leading the country since 1994, because throughout every end of term, we had the ANC would produce a report, be it a 10-year report, 15-year report, 20-year report, to take stock. How have the policies that have been embarked upon impacted on the lives of people? And where are the gaps and what needs to be improved? I think that tradition, it's a tradition of accountability, appreciating the progress we're making and what are the limitations and what are the opportunities. As we were coming towards the end of the fourth term, the fourth administration, the ANC-led government produced a 20-year Vision 2030, which was a program that was beginning to look until 2030, what is it that we would like to see? It created a frame, and in fact what was magical about the National Development Plan is that all the political formations represented in Parliament, they all came to the same conclusion that this is the program that will take the country forward. In fact, you would also look back and say the ANC had the ability to create a platform that unites a variety of interest groups, a variety of people into appreciating what kind of future we deserve. That's what the Freedom Charter did. It provided a platform that united different perspectives in articulating the kind of future we're looking at. The NDP builds on that vision to say, where do we want to be from this time? So as we're getting into elections, there was a frame already created and popularly accepted, and all the ANC did was then to craft a manifesto informed by that to say in this next administration, the fifth administration, we will extract the following things. And it said we must address unemployment, which is an issue to do with the underperformance of the economy, not only countrywide but globally. So we need to intensify efforts at ensuring that we stem the tide of unemployment, particularly youth unemployment. The ANC said so because it's responding to the problems that are showing in society. It also said, whilst we are addressing the need of growing the prospects of the economy, but also we must ensure that the safety nets that the ANC policies have actually provided to ensure that those who are unable to get gainfully employed, they can, of course, have something to take home or avoid the situation where poverty just proliferates. The various interventions, be they in our schools, in our health institutions, social development, expanded public works programs, all these are trying to respond to the problem that is identifiable. But whilst you are bringing remedies to that problem, you must make sure that people are taken care of. And of course, we've got to look at continuing to improve the quality of our educational outcomes, the quality of our healthcare services, ensuring that for us in the province, we can, in relating to the issues of growing the economy, look at our reality. Our province is predominantly rural. It has got a huge agricultural potential. Our manifesto speaks to that, rural development. And this is what resonated with the people. And therefore, it came as no surprise that 70% of them in the province said, we identify with this vision that the ANC has articulated with its allies, and hence we are mandating the ANC to proceed with the work it's been doing, building from the successes of the last 20 years. Let's proceed with this program. That's the movement of the people.
Given the responsibility as a political structure, do you think as the leadership of the ANC, you are able to deal with issues politically? You look at what is happening in the society. Our province is experiencing so many challenges. Crime rate is high. Young women are raped, children are raped, women are raped. There's a lot of conflicts that are taking place in the society. Are you able to deal with these issues? We understand most of them, they are coming somewhere, and it takes quite a long time to deal with a lot of issues. Are you able to deal with them politically?
Look, fortunately, come the middle of the coming year, we're going into the National General Council, where we shall be taking stock, evaluating what has transpired since the last conference, the Mangaung conference. We have, in some instances, got to be self-critical to evaluate some of our policy proposals, the efficacy of them, how they are impacting in our communities, and also look at the nature of the leadership we are giving over society. I'm saying we have to be self-critical. I kept saying that there is room for improvement. Where we are, I can say that the leadership fully comprehends what needs to be done here. And I'm quite comfortable that it's inspired by the good reasons. I'm saying, however, given that the problems are still there, it could be that we need to intensify our efforts and probably also do things differently. Let's take the case of the continuing abuse of women and children. The president sometime raised the question of the revival of street committees, which was one of the very effective instruments to ensure that there is a proper organization of our structures, something reminiscent to the old M-plan of those days. But for some reason, our structures have not really embraced this call, in that where we could have been having these street committees that will almost serve as some kind of a neighborhood watch. I might not be finding the correct expression of it, but in our community, we should know what's happening in the neighborhood. We should be able to tell when there is something wrong, immediately it has happened, so that we are able to have that solidarity with one another to ensure that we defend and protect our spaces, so that we advance our democratic gains. I think we have tended to be a little lax on such things, particularly popular mobilization behind programs that advance the substance of our freedom, but also that ensure that the weak and the vulnerable in society find protection, not just relying on the organs of state. I think we tend to think about police and we tend to, the government must do this, government must do that, whilst the first line of defense that is in the people themselves. We don't have that. I think we should be building communities along the way. I think that's where I feel we need to look back at our policies, efficacy of them, but also the role of the people. The role of the people in their freedom should not be undermined, so to speak. I think as we make gains, and again here, I think it's something that we've got to fight because there's this liberal notion that, people have got individual rights and it should be the supreme thing, etc. Yes, our constitution provides those things, but we are a predominantly African society here. Of course, that has got other race groups that are there, but to a very large extent, some values and principles that underpin our outlook, we should not really lose them for that solidarity with one another. It's something that I think we would, at our own peril, neglect that, and it's going to prove costly down the line. So street committees, other popular organs that we create to make sure that it's not just the ANC and government, but the people themselves are part of making the changes that are necessary where we live. It is something that we should work hard at as the leadership collectively, so as to be truly that leader of society.
Just immediately after elections, the Premier of the province delivered the State of the Province address. And that was received very well by the people of the province, including the opposition itself. Everybody was having high hopes. Can you tell us, where are we?
Well, since the delivery of the State of the Province address, there were three things that we really elevated out of that. Other than having stated clearly what is it that we will be doing over the next 5 years, we also said we want to work in haste. We want to work in partnerships. We also want to see greater accountability. And to that effect, we said we are going to start by the very top of the leadership to show that responsibility and accountability, and that we're going to report periodically to our people on the progress we're making. Indeed, we've had the first round, which was the first quarterly report, which we gave at the end of September, around October. We reported back to the people about the commitments we had made and the progress we've made in meeting these commitments, and what remained to be done until the financial year has come to an end. I think it's something that has been well received, and it resonated very well with a lot of people, because where we are blamed as the ANC government is that we say good things and we only come back to people when we seek re-election. In between, where we must be giving a reflection of what we are doing together with people to see through the commitments we've made, we tend to neglect that. So continuously now, we're making it a habit. We are on the ground, we are reporting, we are addressing concerns that the people have. I mean, right now, over this period of the 16 days of activism, we were in not only on the extreme side of the western side of the province in Sarapatman, we were in Alfredo. So we're crisscrossing the province, talking to people about what we are doing. We're not talking about voting We're not talking about elections. We're talking about how we conscientize them, how we report back to them about the things that we are doing. And I think it is something that is really embraced, and people feel comfortable that now they have their government in action with them. It's something that I think for the ANC we've got to intensify, and not only at provincial level, also at sub-provincial as well as in the municipal areas, to keep people engaged, talk to them continuously. Where you see public protests, it is because of lack of engagement, continuous interaction with people. They don't know what is happening, or some people amongst them pretend to know what is happening and usurp the space of the absence of leadership that is there continuously where people have concerns. And people will always have concerns, and it should be that we always have answers to how the concerns will be attended to. If that concern is not getting attended to now, at least we should be able to say the plan is as follows, but once we have said this is the plan, that plan has got to be met. We must take our people seriously. I think this is what we are doing, and it's resonating very well. We're even extending beyond the province to say, all those who come from the Eastern Cape, come, let's build our province. What can you do? And it's something that I think talking to the leadership, or saying even the municipalities, let's open up. Let's not just keep things to ourselves here. You see, a problem shared is much easier than you sitting together sitting alone here with a problem, not sharing it. But this time around, even when there are so many things that need to be done there, but if you bring people along, you do 1, 2, or 3 of them, they are quite happy. They are inspired because you're doing it with them. I think that is the trust that we've pursued since that time. It's early days. We will be reporting again in the early February about a reflection on how then have we traversed. We would by then probably be about 8 or 10 months or so. But certainly it will be reflective of the work we would have done, but also what we will be doing going forward, because then we would have been also tabling plans for the year 15-16, what we have in the program for that time. So as you talk to what you'll be doing next, it's also giving an account. What have you done with the things you had committed to do? And hold people accountable, because there's nothing as bad as where there is non-performance. People get rewarded, and we leave things as they are. People don't do what's expected of them. They are left in positions. We've sent a very strong message that we'll take action where there is underperformance. We will not have room in our leadership and our collectives for non-performance. This is what the people have been saying to us all the time. And I think there is therefore that appreciation, and the test is going to be in demonstrating how we live up to that.
How does the ANC define public participation? To this far, are you happy with the manner in which government is engaging the public and the public engaging government? What is it that is expected of people to do in order to participate in the issues of governance?
Look, it's one area that we still have a lot more work to do to give it meaning. You see, we've said, following the Freedom Charter, in the Freedom Charter, the very first clause says the people shall govern. And we consistently try and create avenues, except for just electing a government. It should be that continuously the people are even engaged about that which they have said, go ahead and do it, so that we can give continuously meaning to the essence of this slogan, the people shall govern. So in the province, apart from just the outreach program that the Executive Council does, Parliament, the legislature itself has sessions where through either petitions or even programs like taking Parliament to the people, which are taking place perhaps once a year or so. But Beyond that, we can still add to the things that are done to give substance and content continuously to the essence of that statement that the people shall govern. You see, we are piloting and we'll be intensifying the implementation of that approach this coming year, where we have in a ward community development workers. We've got in a ward committees, ward councillors. We also have many of those who visit homesteads. Our approach to public participation, we wanted to start factoring the ward situation. You see, where the municipalities have IDP processes, the constant complaint is that, yes, we do say what are our needs as the ward, but it's only we hear about that and we never hear anything else that has happened. And sometimes we are kept asked to say, what are your needs? And we keep saying the needs. There is nothing that is showing. We need to improve the working relations between the spheres of government, and all of them must resonate in the ward. And the IDP, the Provincial Development Plan, the National Development Plan, the impact of it is in a ward. And in a ward there lives people who must constantly be consulted about what's going on or what is to take place in their ward. Once we perfect that system, I would be able to say we are constantly in communication with people structurally. And that therefore, when we say the people shall govern, it's not a remote thing that they feel once after 5 years when they go and elect, be it for a local authority or provincial or national authorities. It is work in progress. I'm saying it's something that we can improve. Yes, at the moment, Nazimbizo and all of these, they are too once off and far in between. We need to improve that so that there is continuous interaction, interface with people around their concerns and what is happening about their concerns, so that we can eliminate these. I think one of the criticism is that there is a social distance between leadership as well as the people. We should close that so that there is no talk about it. It's with what we're trying to pilot at the moment.
As ANC in government, are you able to respond to sector needs? There's an outcry majorly on young people. There's a serious concern. Representation of young people in government, activism in young people, with the ANC Youth League, with all sorts of situations that it is facing now. As the ANC leading the province, are we able to respond to say these are the priorities for young people?
Yes, they are. The critical one is firstly education, and secondly, it is skills development. And then thirdly, once people are prepared and with the necessary skills, it is support to ensure that they are able to be integrated into viable enterprises, either of their own or vehicles get created to enable them to get into that. So we are in a way working on multiple platforms to try and help young people respond to the plight that faces youth. Of course, all the sectors, women, those in business, as well as the workforce, labor, and those who are in different parts, in different sectoral formations, interest groups, cooperatives. We are in a number of platforms responding to them. But certainly, it might appear as though there is little being done given the propensity of the problem, but there are programs in place to respond to that matter.
Now on local government, there seems to be a serious headache for the ANC in local government. A lot of challenges happening in the municipalities, and that's where people of this province are having problems. Can you give us the state of local government? Why do we have so many challenges there? What is it that the ANC is doing to deal with specific problems that are coming out on each and every municipality. We have a municipality that has just been disbanded. There's a lot of reshuffling taking place in the political leadership of municipalities. Why? There's serious problem in municipality. Nelson Mandela, everybody is crying about Nelson Mandela. We are going for local government elections. What is the problem in local government?
Well, I would put the question differently because I think that the framing of the question is a consequence of the problematic nature that the ANC has approached local government. I think it's something that is dawning that local government as the site or the municipal as the entity of government that directly interfaces with the people. We may have really our conception of deployment been problematic. Just make an example of in China. Some of the major municipalities, Shanghai as well as say even Beijing, the mayor there is a senior member of the Politburo of the Communist Party of China. Because that municipality is of such a strategic nature that much as it is a municipality, but its significance has got a national footprint. Hence the Communist Party of China has actually elevated those who are leaders there. They sit at the highest level. It's just an example to show that our conception of our municipalities is somewhat not reflective of the importance, the significance of that level of leadership. We tended to look at leadership more in a form of a staircase. The higher you go, that's your more strategic leadership. All of it is at a national level. I can tell you right now, of the members of the NEC, very, very high up there, other than all of them being in national parliament and central government, it would not be out of place actually to have some of them leading some of the critical municipalities, because you need that expertise, that leadership experience and expertise closer to where people live. So in a way, you can come down even to the provincial leadership. You will find that we tend to cream the leadership off at the top to what is more significant and higher. But as you go down, the leadership depth and experience is lesser. Yet it should be that it is at that level that you needed your most trusted layer of leadership, because it interfaces daily with the people. And that's where the gravity is taking place. So I think the problem, to answer your question, is firstly we must correct our conception of the municipality. We need to reconfigure our paradigm in terms of deployment. We need to put our best cadres in local government. We have so far failed to do that in spite of the many periods in which leadership had sounded that we need to do that. Continuously, we will remind each other, we need not leave municipal space for those fairly newer members or those who have failed to make it here in the staircase. Theirs is going to be in local government. That conception is completely wrong. But coming to practically what is happening, I think we have emasculated local government of the necessary experience, even where there has been insistence in the last local government that we should insist that 60% of the serving councillors should be retained. In some instances, whilst that has been met, the base has been very low, such that the capacity that we need in terms of the leadership acumen, etc., we still needed to work at it. But again, we in terms of, we may have said in 1992, we're ready to govern. But truth be told, how we have looked at preparing ourselves fully to have the necessary resource base to provide leadership in tandem with objectives of the ANC, such a task was half-heartedly addressed. We've tended to ready ourselves for the top. But for the entirety of the country, in a variety of areas, skills that we need, not just politically, expertise, engineers, electricians, all sorts of expertise that you need for local government is not there. In fact, what is happening, we've had even to rely on the retirees, those who used to be there, and again, unfortunately, even in terms of directing the institutions of higher learning in producing the skills, not just for the general populace, but specifically from a liberation point of view, that the ANC wants particular skills that it must have of its own, people who have the orientation of the ANC, that would find themselves in providing leadership in many of the critical areas, IT as an example, engineering fields as an example. We still rely on old order skills. We have not produced much. Where we have, they've tended to jump into the private sector. It's some of the things that in order to make local government work, we've got to bring all these things together. And of course, we are seeing constant improvement. I wouldn't say it's all doom and gloom. Of our municipalities, if you look at the improvements in the audit outcomes, there's a beginning to be focus in areas that need particular attention. Of course, there are those cases where there is just dismal failure that has necessitated intervention. But you see, even that failure, it's also where there is political defiance. It's not that the institution itself is hopeless. It is those who are there who behave in ways that are not in keeping with the directives, the leadership of the structures. In Kwanza, for instance, literally they behave not for any reason, corrupt reasons. This is what I spoke about in the beginning, where there is this corrosion of the ethos, the manner of behaving of ANC members once they are in areas where they take decisions that have an impact in changing people's lives. If I give you a tender, you'll suddenly become a better person. So we see the failing municipalities where there is also failing political leadership that is very defiant at times. But it is, you could say it's exceptional. It's not all over. You can count a few municipalities. Yes, we have challenges. Some municipalities, our leadership is very thin. In terms of the electoral support, Kocha as an example, the attitude, the mind of the ANC leaders at that level also is taking people for granted. We can afford fighting amongst ourselves because anyway we are secured. These people will vote ANC anyway. I think that mentality has got to do, of course, with the maturity, the seniority of leadership, the appreciation, the depth of grasp of the ANC itself, how we behave. I think this is what we're grappling with and we need to correct, because all the time, those who are public representatives honestly should fear the people all the time. And when they don't, they become themselves now the ones that must be feared by the people. You have a problem that then people start finding other alternatives because they are not served better. The ANC is very humble by design. It's humble to its people. because it is for them. It's only where you find people who have adopted certain cultures and traditions that are not in keeping with the ANC that you have some of the problems we have. Nelson Mandela, yes, you have mentioned it. I mean, even as I said yesterday, it was another public spate amongst those of the ANC. Today it continues. The people who we deploy there, instead of doing only one thing there every day, how do I better serve the people here? They are at each other's necks all the time, and it brings a bad name to the ANC. Elsewhere, it would be plain instances of corrupt activity. It brings a bad name to the organization. And these are things that I wouldn't say they are engulfing the organization. They are specific in certain areas, and they need to be isolated as they get dealt with.
On that note, Chairperson, the President has admitted that the ANC is in a problem. Can you explain to us what is the President talking about?
Well, look, I was very happy when the President said that. Something in me said, well, we're now getting vindicated. I'll tell you that I had the privilege of being elected into the NEC in 2007 in Mangaung. At the time, leading to that conference, the organization had reached a point where, in how leadership has given leadership over the organization, things had got to a point where there was an internal reaction, very strong reaction to how leaders were giving leadership over the organization. The factionalism that had really risen, and where consideration to membership was on which side you are, a divided organization essentially. In fact, in fighting to restore back the integrity of the organization, some of the measures employed, if you were in that conference, the then chairperson was Terra Likota. He was presiding over that. He couldn't chair the meeting. As he was trying to call the meeting to order, the conference, there was a clear demand on the ground. Get out of the, we don't want. In fact, then Khalema had to come in and actually get the conference to be orderly. There was an anarchic behavior that also found itself, in a way legitimized itself, because there was a cause that we sought to fight against. So the leadership that came in 2007 onwards had a duty to really ensure there is balance, we restore the integrity of organization. For its credit, the NEC did very well, I think. But you see, that rot was not only at a national level. It was actually throughout the organization. The arteries of the organization were affected by that. And of course, there was no political education undertaken at all at the time. So that systemic pollution of the way of life in the organization was not only at that level, it cascaded down to the lower levels. So the task was to really work to root out that kind of culture in the organization. I don't think we moved beyond the national level. I still think that in the Eastern Cape we were lucky. We were lucky in that I think post Mangaung Polokwane, there was still a sense that there needed to be work done in the Eastern Cape. And I remember we were deployees here together with Reverend Stoffel and other comrades, the contingent of NEC members deployed here. We sought to work to eliminate this culture of division, factions, and anarchy. So I think because of that focus, where we are today, it's because of systematically working through that. And also being able to relate to regions and discourage that kind of working. The example to make which stands out is where leadership would not have acted at the right time. Is soon after Polokwane was the conference of the ANC Youth League in Bloemfontein. That conference never concluded its business. In fact, even the confirmation of who the top 5 is was done by the officials of the ANC. Yet it comes out that, in fact, those who were involved in that conference, they know very well there was a lot of fraudulence, even acts of vandalism unheard of in the ANC. Nonetheless, the elected leadership there, the likes of Julius, were allowed a lease of life. In fact, the NEC was saying, and self-critical once again, that where we have EFF today, the ANC leadership somewhat is to blame. Because where this tendency, Yabo Julius, was raising its ugly head, there were leaders, and all of us, we never said, no, not during our leadership can we allow this to take root. In fact, some leaders were supportive, embracive, when they continued assaulting the characters of very credible leaders. They started either with Khalema, the Secretary General, the President himself, Comrade Naledi, and any other one who had a different view. They assaulted the character of the person until the ANC said it's enough. But it took very long to get to that point. And you see, the problems of the Youth League we're seeing today stem from that period of time. And we have not attended to working to root out of the organization this culture, this bad culture where we come to conferences not to debate and emerge with policies. We come to conferences only to elect. And of course, the proliferation of money, business concerns that inject money to individuals, and individuals to literally buy, where the youth is involved, there must be parties, there must be drinks and all of that, very expensive whiskeys that are made available to these young people. And again, really depoliticizing our struggle. This is what has happened. And now the president was making the point that as the NEC, we're taking responsibility and we are going to, from now onwards, take corrective action. And that corrective action not only resides at leadership level, it is also going to have to cascade down to all the structures, that we bring back the dignity to the ANC. I mean, it was no accident at all to say that the national conference of the ANC that should have said of the ANC Youth League should be converted into a policy conference. Literally, our young comrades were going to that conference literally to tear each other apart, not to have a conference of the Youth League that will reinforce the work of the ANC amongst the young people. Again, I keep making this point. I did even in the NSC raise this question that we must have this debate about age. Those 35-year-olds, 34-year-olds that are there aren't as young anymore. In fact, they are very serious comrades, very serious business people themselves who want the platform of the ANC Youth League to serve not the cause of young people, but their cause. This thing of using the ANC Youth League as some kind of a kingmaker And there's this notion, in fact, we had this, one of the youth leaders in the province sometime when we were going to a conference saying, where as the Youth League, we have said we support this candidate, we always won. I remember this young fellow who said that here in the province. Of course, we disproved that. It's not always the case. And nationally, it's also been disproved. Young people must really concentrate in growing the base of membership of the ANC amongst young people. The issues of leadership, as and when that comes, they are in no better position to influence that than the delegates of branches of the ANC to a conference. I think we have tended to mislead one another, even mislead the ANC Youth League in many respects. So the culture, the Women's League is also similarly affected, divisions. So is the Veterans League, so is MKMVA. This culture has sought to corrupt all our structures. And it is something that I think the president was making a point that the organization must make a turn from the way we have allowed things to go. And to make it publicly as it did, I think that also showed leadership. People like talking in quiet corners. The ANC is a liberation movement. It belongs to all the people. And at every given time, we must take them to confidence because of the ability we have. I think, if anything, the ANC has the potential to make mistakes, but we also have self-correcting abilities. And that was indicative of that, to self-correct. And we must do so. And where I said I felt vindicated, it's because precisely that's the message we've been making in the province, that let's analyze, let's understand. There's nothing mystical about what's happening here. We know very well. We've been there. We know everything. You see, the behavior of comrades. In fact, at the moment, there is a small coterie of comrades who make as though wherever they are, they represent the president. The president need no representatives. They go around, talk about so-and-so, they are conspiring there, they don't want the president. In reality, they have an agenda of themselves. They just use the name of the president. I think this is what we've been saying amongst our comrades. Let's be vigilant. Let's not allow our province to be carved into pieces, pockets of external influence, because here suddenly there are people who, we have a leadership collective that we've elected in Mangaung. We are absolutely committed to that leadership. We every day want to see it succeed, and we would take no one who tries to divide them and make each other or make us be seen to be we are more loyal to this and not loyal to the other. No, we've elected a leadership collective there, and that leadership collective is there until 2017. And from where I sit, we will take nothing that tries to divide that leadership. And again, the leadership that has its own agendas, its own interests. We've also said in the PC, we must advise people. It's not time to even think about talking about 2017 right now. We've got local government elections that are coming, that are going to be quite critical, that need a united leadership of the ANC. We have the NGC that is coming. We need to go and look at progress since Mangaung. We need a leadership that is focused, united on those matters. And when it was the president saying that, I said, thank you very much. Uchukuthi sisazibona izinto. Asikalahleki.
Can you share with us how did the NEC arrive to a conclusion to change the status of the elective conference of the Youth League?
Look, though it did not take place in the NEC itself, but the message was very loud from the NEC that even where the NWC was reporting that we had time to evaluate and assess whether or not the conference must be allowed or shouldn't there be interventions to prevail on some individuals not to avail themselves. But the NWC was of the opinion, no, it's too late to do that now. The NEC said, it's never too late to take the correct decision. And that where the name of the ANC is going to be dragged in the mud, the leadership must act as custodians of the dignity of the ANC. The NEC's mandate was very loud. After that, the officials met with the entity, and having heard the report, then took the decision that this cannot proceed as planned. But of course, at the time, people had already, all arrangements were made, so you wouldn't discontinue without incurring very huge costs. So because everything was set, they had to then say it must be a consultative conference.
There is a growing perception, looking at the last two cases, the Shreni Diwana case, the Oscar Pretorius case, there is a growing perception that justice system in the country is not serving the people well as a result of the outcomes of these two cases. What can you say on this perception?
Look, certainly it is a very emotive issue. But in approaching it, I would rather we look at the various parts of the justice system, how they should work together to deliver justice. Because you see, it does not start at the court. It does not start where there's got to be a judgment given. It starts as well with the case management, the investigative abilities, the preparation of witnesses, and the credibility of witnesses. I think if all that were to be of such a level, justice would indeed be seen to be served, because understandably, courts take decisions on the strength of what has been argued in court. If it hasn't been argued in court, however it enjoys the sentiment of the people, there won't be a judgment in favor of that. Ours, of course, is like that. Umoshile, Sikbonile, and we deal with you at that time. But if we follow the system we have, it has to be that we must strengthen our investigative capacity so that we do not have the contamination of evidence. I mean, often you see, even for our communities, where there was this case, it was in Durban, one of the areas there, where the community is up in arms, and then they go and burn down a police station. Now, if you go and burn down a police station, all the evidence for all the other crimes that had been committed there is blown away. So it should be that we create the awareness amongst our people. Support to police, but also police must not be rogue elements who do not do their work as expected. It must be that we've got a professional investigative capacity. It must be that the prosecutorial organs are also very sharp in the understanding of the law and in the delivery of justice, so that those who have the duty to adjudicate are presented with all the evidence and reliability. I mean, the case in the Western Cape right now, what seems to be the issue is the reliability of the witnesses. Where we know somebody died, and we don't think that person simply just died because these ones just hashed that. But the bottom line is, it must be in court proven beyond doubt that this was committed. Unfortunately, our justice system is like that. Take the Oscar Pistorius case, it also left many people very much disaffected. I hope the successful appeal will go a long way, and that another court, in looking at the evidence, could be persuaded to think differently. But that's it. That's our justice system. It's like that.
As we go into the last issues, Chair, the outcry, what is happening with ESCOM? Load shedding. Can you explain, how is it explained to government, and what is it that is expected from the people of the province to work with ESCOM in dealing with the issue of the problem of electricity?
Yes. Look, firstly, as the demand for electricity grows, so grows the need to have the generation capacity to be improved. For some reason, way back, there was an expectation that there was going to be the private sector, it was going to play a role in helping to boost the ability, the grid, independent power producers. There was a time where there was this notion that we would be privatizing a lot, and therefore ESCOM needed not to be making any further investments. Some of the stations were mothballed because you were going to anyway get the private sector to be involved. That never got to be realized. And at the time, ESCOM had really reduced its capacity to feed the grid, where also the demand was growing. Remember, at a time, the needs, the electricity needs, were meant for a few, as well as the industrial base at the time. But as you go around here, as Lalin, that is Idolo, people have been connected. We talk about the achievements that we have connected people. As we were doing that, the generation capacity was not being raised comprehensively to be able to meet the demand. The needs of industry, the consumption by more people. Electricity was provided during apartheid without considering the needs of 80% of the people of the country. So that has brought about a burden in the current ability to supply. Yes, you can see in the province, we're also now getting to be an energy hub. A lot of other forms of energy, cleaner energy, wind energy, we're seeing a lot of it taking place here. It's intended to boost the current shortfalls in terms of coal-generated electricity that comes here via grids from the other part. But again, the phasing in of some of the new power stations, Okusile and others, I think once those come onto stream, it will lessen the burden. Of course, also in the province, the potential for the nuclear energy plant that is to be, of course, that will come in further down. Where we are right now, honestly, it's a rut that the country has found itself in, and hopefully come next year, middle of next year, would be out of it, because some of these power plants would have come onto stream. I'm saying this problem, we're getting into it because of what you could say uncertainty in terms of policy outlook, which led to ESCOM not investing, even ESCOM not servicing some of their plants, mothballing. Where you have now to put them back into operation, it takes a lot of time, and you've got others to service them, etc. So I think it's some of the decisions that we may have made at a time when we were looking at a lessened role of the public institutions and a more role to be played by the private sector, which did not materialize.
Drawing close to the Christmas, the end of the year, and the new year, what message from the leadership you can share with the people of the province?
Well, certainly, it's been quite an eventful year. It provides people with an opportunity to end their rest. Some will be on holidays, some will travel from far away to come and be with their families. Certainly we wish them well. We would like them to have a very happy festive period. We would implore them that even as we enjoy the break, the time we have with our families, let's do so responsibly. Some will go to the beautiful coastline we have, to enjoy themselves. The young people will also use this festive period to really be happy. But I think it should always be that it's punctuated by a responsible attitude. Don't drink and drive. Where you have had a few drinks to take, stay away from driving a car, or whoever must drive a car is a person who would not find himself or herself in conflict with the law. And certainly along the way, we often experience a lot of accidents. Would wish that they support the various initiatives, the calls by our government, and the increased visibility that people generally cooperate and support the law enforcement agencies, and of course the intake of liquor is often another problem at the time. We wish people could really observe this so that as we end the year, we're ready with everyone else to receive the coming year. And we get back to working very hard to make sure that we look after our loved ones, our families, but as government to look after the interests of the people of the province going forward. Yes, I hope I could also be going for rest, but unfortunately, duty calls for always being there to look after the people of the province.
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Thank you.